What's up? It's Carcino here for Screen Fiends, and I decided to do three movie reviews in one. Why? Because I don't have time to sit here and do three separate ones. But these are movies to go see right now in the movie theaters. Definitely The Promise. The Promise is this is for film lovers. Okay. Arthur Isaacs is in this movie. Christian Bale, you remember him from The Dark Knight Rises. But this is based on the Armenian genocide that happened in 1915. And with this film, you get to see what happened when the Turkish people just start slaughtering them by the thousands. And they had to escape and that whole process. So if you're into history and you're into the Turkish government still denies all this to this day. But if you're into movies, film, and basically you just love story. This is very well told, very well directed. And I'm like, my goodness, you're going to get the best out of Oscar Isaac. And the female that played the female lead, she was great in this role as well. And Christian Bale did his usual performance playing an American, but he was great in the film also. It's definitely a 4-star movie. There's nothing wrong with The Promise whatsoever. It over exceeded in my book. And that brings us to the next title we have, The Lost City of Z. Now, The Lost City of Z stars a guy who has two movies out in the movie theaters now, which is Charlie Hunnam. In other words, the guy who you've seen in the movie King Arthur, who plays the guy who can pick up the sword of King Arthur. So, when he lifts Excalibur out of the stone. So that's in the theaters now. But The Lost City of Z is based on another story about the throwback to discovering lands that they thought did not exist in the Amazon, based on an actual true story. It's an old fashioned epic Hollywood film, like since Out of Africa, Gandhi type of film about the forgotten civilization in the Amazon jungle, and you got Robert Patterson in this movie from Twilight. You have the new Spider-Man in this film. So it definitely brought a lot of intrigue and mystery to the land. And this is another 4-star movie. See, Charlie Hunnam's character is a fiend for discovery. He wants to discover this lost city in the Amazon. And every 3 years, his wife had to be the most understanding wife in the history of mankind because he would be gone for like 3 years at a time. And she was just patient. First, she wanted to go with him. You going back? I'm going back. Every time they go back and fail, he like, look, I'm going back. That's another 3-year journey. He went to war, got blinded by some gunpowder, some gas, and he still didn't discourage him. He kept going back to the Amazon. And his buddy, at last, saying, you know what, I can't go with you on this last mission. And about time he went back for his final run at that Amazon, his son was old enough to join him, his oldest son. And he always wanted to go with his father because he never really knew his father. His father was in and out of his life all the time. Next thing you know, he got recruited for war. And taking his son on this mission with him, it was like a completed circle to discover this lost land. So that's definitely a 4-star movie. Go see The Lost City of Z. Now, we move on to the next, which is a movie entitled Gifted. And Gifted is starring the other Chris. There's like three Chris's in Hollywood right now. You got Chris Pratt, you got Chris Klein, and then you got this Chris, Captain American Chris Evans. So now, out of the three Chris's, here's the thing. Chris Evans has taken the most dramatic roles or excellent type of films outside of the main superhero characters that they play. Let me see. Let me put that example. Uh, Puncture. Puncture is a movie that many of you probably never seen with Chris Evans. And that was epic. Beyond, it's the true story of them and fighting the hospital. This one lawyer who was addicted to drugs, who was definitely fighting the hospital because the hospitals it was a lot of people getting HIV and AIDS for accidental punctures with the needles. They wanted the retractable needles, the ones that wouldn't be sticking out after they punctured somebody, because people were getting AIDS from accidental punctures, like nurses. They're trying to hold people down for shots. These things were very rampant, and people didn't even know that it existed because the government covered it up, and they had needles that would reduce these accusations, but that was, you know, not brought to the table. Then he had the one when they were all on the train. My God, what is that movie? That was like the best film that year. The Snowmaker or something like that. When the whole civilization was gone of Earth. Everybody was living on this train. My goodness, what was the name of that film? It is on my head, and I am not going to get my mind clear if I don't figure it out. Snowpiercer. That's it. Snowpiercer. When he came out with that film, and that came out before the Winter Soldier, when he did the Snowpiercer, I said, "Oh my God, this is excellent." The Snowpiercer was about all these guys. Like I told you, Earth's whole civilization is stuck. They're stuck on a train, and it goes around the globe, and it's powered. It stays powered. The train never runs out of power. It keeps moving, but Earth is frozen over so badly that the only way to survive is to be on this train. Anybody step outside, they're dead. So that's always been, to me, one of his best films. And the train is set up like society. The people in the back, all the poor people, they're near the back of the train. The very end, they get the butt end of everything. Food, all the stuff. That's all they get. Is the back end of that. And everybody in the middle class is entirely different. You never interact with the next section. So one day they decided to make an anarchy, the poor, to move forward. and it sets off a chain reaction, and it upsets the system. And you need to watch the movie because it's intense. So, with that being said, Gifted, because we drifted way off. Gifted is about a child of, she has tremendous abilities at a young age, like Chris Pine's sister. She died and left him in charge of the daughter, and he was not he was not as smart as his sister, and she was like, the mom is like a math genius, so the daughter was, but she felt the mom was too controlling, so she wanted her daughter to live a normal life. So she gave him to her brother to take care of, and he's struggling to take care of her and this super smart kid because he doesn't want to like hold her back in life because he lives a very modern life, and then here comes the rich, powerful, smart grandmother who's like, I want to take my granddaughter back, and I'm going to use the court system to try to do it. So it becomes a tug of war over this child who's not old enough yet to pick where she wants to live. So, and things that she wants to do. So Gifted is a great film. Definitely check that out. You'll be surprised with the ending, which brings us to the next movie, and that is Sleight. Like Sleight of Hand. Sleight is a quite different type of movie. It's like a superhero movie, but then it's not really. I'm still like confused a little bit by Sleight. And I'm like, okay, what am I watching here? I'm watching Sleight and I'm like, I don't really truly understand it. A guy died, his mother died at a young age. He became a street musician. Jacob Lattimore, who's a great stage actor, and he's very good. And he's getting a lot of big roles, but this is like his first movie on his own where he's the star. And WWE Studios and Blumhouse is involved, so that tells you where this was gonna go. And what he is like he was basically a street not musician, magician who was taking care of his young sister, and he started using magic and became like the guy who was selling like drugs like Molly and little stuff to party clubs and all the people who had musicians coming to town. So he was like, cool, I could do this. There's no danger in it because, I'm just selling to the clubs, and kids that want to get high. He's not out here crushing anything right now. So that's all he wanted to do. And he was okay with that. Problems ensued only, and I mean only, when he had to run into a situation where the job got a little bit more intense. Then you start to see he has certain abilities. It's not just sleight of hand. And it's a it's a good movie. The acting is not that outstanding. Not from him, from the other supporting actors that he had around him. A lot of them weren't that great. Like the actress that played Holly, Dooley Hill, he played a great Angelo. I think he was great. Um, I don't think the actress that played Holly really brought brought it. It matched the the level she needed to match when it came to reaching a certain point where I felt like, okay, this movie's right here, and she needs to be at that level to meet him. And I don't think she was at that level to meet Jacob. It's kind of smart. It's very well directed, but it's the story is a little weird, and people who sold drugs, things went left on him in this film. And I'm just like, if you're a drug dealer boss, I doubt you go to that extreme that quick, especially with one of your best workers. You don't do that. You'll send a message, but it wouldn't get to that far for that, what I'm saying, for just that situation. And that's about it. I'm done. Thank you again for tuning in to Screen Phase. If you stuck in it out for all this time, thank you. That must mean you really like movies. You really love them. If you've seen all these movies, then you already somebody that really loved the film. And I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Goodbye.